So one thing that I can see from this framework that you put out, you got a lot of learnings around how you gather data,
Mm-hmm.
how do you analyze the data,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you do the briefing.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of your CIA experience, you debriefed somebody,
Yeah,
but here you are debriefing yourself.
exactly. Yeah.
So what are the best practices of gathering data which you
Yeah.
learned at the CIA, which you can apply back to your own life?
Yeah.
What's the best way to analyze the data,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the best way to debrief?
Okay, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that before. I love this. So first part about gathering the data. Again, at the CIA, we prided ourselves on being all source analysts. So looking at literally every source of relevant information, but not only relying on the covertly collected secret stuff, but what are all of the sources of information and insight on this particular topic? The same is true for your own life. So of course you have to do your own inner reflections and your own inner data collection, but then and choose carefully here, but it can never hurt, as long as you choose carefully, to ask other people, collect other data from external sources. Again, what do you see as my strengths? What do you see as some of my blind spots? What do you think I'm uniquely qualified to do or really good at or whatever? And again, choose people whose opinion you respect and who have actually had some experience of you in that context. So don't ask, your best friend who you've never worked with in a job together, how he thinks of you as a professional, because he has no experience of that, right? So collect relevant data from people who have relevant information about the question you're asking. And then, like I said, be all source about it. So you can get information from yourself, from the people around you, perhaps from some of the performance reviews you've gotten in the past, but be a bit broad based in your collection. Then the analysis of it comes. I mean, there's no sort of hard or fast way of doing this, but you will see the patterns starting to emerge. So group those things together. What are some of the personal attributes that people keep telling you that you're really strong in? What are some of the technical things that people say you're really good at? And again, just group things together. And then it's another conversation with yourself of like, this feels right intuitively. This collection of things that people have told me, or this emerging pattern that I'm seeing, it starts to feel right. And then you dig into it a little bit more. And again, that goes back to that process of, okay, internal reflection, external sort of sense checking, etc. But it's an iterative process. It's not like you do it once and then it stays, like that forever. So that's the data, the collection and the analysis. And then the debriefing part, it comes into just crystallizing it effectively into a plan. So you've done the data collection, you've done the self-analysis, you've gotten the relevant inputs from other people. What are you going to do with that now? And maybe you do nothing, right? Maybe it's just a useful exercise and you decide to just sit on it. But maybe you think, oh, wow, well, I see these are the themes and the patterns. I see these are the recurring trends. And I actually feel a bit of a tension or a mismatch between what I'm doing and what makes me feel like I'm coming alive and thriving, et cetera. So these are the specific things that I'm going to do to try to weave more of the things that fulfill me into my day-to-day life. And then the debriefing is sharing that plan with the people who will be affected by that plan. So let's say you have come to the conclusion that maybe you're going to consider a career change, or maybe you're going to get back into your hobby of playing the piano. Now, if nobody else is affected by that, then they don't need to know. But if you're changing your career, for example, or at least exploring it, and you're married and or have kids, then those people, they don't need to be a part of the plan or the process, but at least share with them that there might be this change coming and you are exploring this thing. Or if the fact that you want to start playing piano again means you can't have dinner with your friends on a Friday night like you normally do, share that with your friends. It doesn't have to be asking for permission, but at least share that things will change. And if you choose to, you don't have to, but you can just share with them why you're changing it. I have always loved to play the piano. And since I started my job, I haven't, for the past 20 years of building my career, I haven't had time to indulge. And this thing is collecting dust, but it brings me joy. So I'm going to do this every Friday night when we would normally have our dinners, because that's when I have most free time, whatever it is, right? That's a small example, but don't be afraid of having those conversations. And sometimes, sadly, there will be pushback, and the people you share things with will not want you to do the change and want you to stay the same, or to keep things the way they've always been. And that perhaps is another difficult conversation, because the people who come with us to up to a certain point in our lives aren't always going to be the people we bring with us for the rest of our lives. And sometimes it's those same people who have been with us for a long time, who have their set view of who we are and how we fit into their lives, that can be the most committed to keeping us the same. And so we want to change, and we feel that calling, and we feel that urge and that need, but the people around us might not want us to do that. So that is part of the process, sadly. You know, people sometimes want you to stay the same for their selfish purposes. Sometimes they just don't understand, and so it's a conversation to explain it. But sometimes they just, you know, if you change, all of a sudden it calls into question the way they're doing things. And it makes them feel a little bit uncertain about, oh gosh, well, if he's deciding to do this, why am I not doing it? You know, and so sometimes it's about their insecurity. So share, you know, debrief the people who might need to know, but also be prepared that sometimes you'll have to maybe spend less time with certain people, or just carve out sort of a mental protective barrier from their inputs and their negativity. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to care about your life as much as you do. Nobody. And nobody can live it for you the way you want it to do it. So don't be afraid to say no to some people, or to spend less time, or to carve them out entirely from your life if it comes to that, even if they've been with you your whole life. It's not a nice thing to say, but it is the reality, because they will either be pulling you forward and towards this thing, this change, this dream, ambition, whatever, or it'll be holding you back. And you don't have time for people to be holding you back.